Hey, have you seen Dory? Lost again? You've got to be squidding me. We just floundered yesterday. I swear she goes missing on purpose. This is turning into a turtle disaster. If she does show up, let me know. In the meantime, I'm sure you've been hearing all about her new film, but rather than taking someone else's word on it, I'm going to be a bit shellfish and share my own biting review. I meant to discuss these films a lot schooner, but what are you going to do? Okay, I definitely need to stop with these fish puns, but just for the hell of it, this is movie night. Hello and welcome to Movie Night. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. The work from Pixar Animation Studios has captured the imagination of millions, won countless awards, and earned billions at the box office. Last June, in part 1 of this series, we reviewed Toy Story, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, WALL-E, and Inside Out. So if you missed that episode, click the link in the description or this information icon. But they've released a couple new films since then, so tonight we'll take a look at 5 more of their 17 features, beginning with Monsters, Inc. A creative mix of imagination and humor. This 92-minute computer-animated comedy was a huge success, pulling in almost 5 times its $115 million budget when it was released in November of 2001. The fourth feature from Pixar Animation Studios follows 2 quirky monsters employed at the titular factory who have to scare children in order to power their city, Monstropolis. Things take an exciting and unpredictable turn when one of the supposedly toxic humans sneaks into their colorful dimension. Writer and director Pete Docter successfully extrapolates a familiar childhood fear into a fully realized monster world, brimming with life and unique characters. Before this G-rated plot even begins though, Pixar does more world building and exposition during a fun 8-minute opening sequence than some TV shows are able to accomplish in an entire season. They turn the mundane, day-to-day operations of factory work into a new and vibrant experience, effortlessly laying out information to establish consequences that come later. A hilarious example of this is when a scarer unknowingly brings back a sock through a magical door and is quarantined and deloused like a radioactive astronaut. Perennial comedian Billy Crystal portrays a plucky and somewhat overconfident green cycloptic sphere with 4 skinny limbs, and the amusingly pedestrian name of Mike Wazowski. Alongside him is former Roseanne star John Goodman as a giant horned monster with furry blue and purple hair, who is far more timid and gentle than his frightening appearance suggests. The two make an excellent pair, with contrasting chemistry and whip-smart banter that feels like a years-old, lived-in friendship.
There's something else.
What?
Look, lay in the egg bay.
What?
Look in the bag.
What bag? Oh, they don't have anything I like here, so take care, Celia.
Excuse me, sir. Michael, what's going on?
Celia, please try to understand. I have to do something!
Michael?
Steve Buscemi is perfectly cast as a slimy, chameleon-like adversary who plots against our protagonist for personal gain. John Ratzenberger makes his requisite appearance as the friendly, abominable snowman, while Jennifer Tilly is Crystal's tentacled receptionist girlfriend. The visuals in Monsters, Inc. are flawless, especially so in the 3D re-release. While the factory environment is somewhat drab, each monster is loaded with expressive color, like Goodman's polka-dotted hair, which reportedly took 11 hours to render, per frame. After 16 nominations, composer Randy Newman finally won his first Academy Award for Best Original Song. His work on the score proper is fitting and playful, but not particularly noticeable. The levity of the slapstick gags pairs beautifully with the quieter moments of discovery, and the end result is a well-paced experience all ages can enjoy. The themes of parenthood and friendship will likely resonate with older audiences, while the multitude of unique creatures will spark interest in the younger crowd. Although it's missing a certain je ne sais quoi that keeps it from reaching the heights of Pixar's best, Monsters, Inc. is a winsome adventure with memorable characters. But now let's check out the YouTube comments from last week's episode to see what you had to say about it. Praising the more mature, heartfelt story, you thought Monsters, Inc. was an awesome film, whereas I'll score it an 8 out of 10. Next up tonight, Cars. Often seen as the black sheep of the Pixar franchise, there's still plenty to enjoy here. At the time of its summer 2006 release, this $120 million sports comedy was the worst reviewed film in the Pixar catalog. In addition to its modest worldwide cume of $462 million though, Cars is estimated to have scored a staggering $10 billion in merchandising sales just in its first 5 years. The original G-rated story was written and directed by Pixar's chief creative officer John Lasseter. The gingerly paced 1 hour and 57-minute narrative follows a rookie race car who gets waylaid in a small forgotten town off Route 66, where he begrudgingly learns the true meaning of friendship. In a world populated entirely by anthropomorphic vehicles, Owen Wilson stars as this hotshot racer, whose impatience and arrogance leaves him stranded and alone, both emotionally and physically. Bonnie Hunt is a Porsche love interest, Larry the Cable Guy a rusted-out tow truck, Tony Shalhoub an overeager Italian Fiat, while George Carlin, Cheech Marin, Richard Petty, Paul Dooley, and Michael Keaton round out the rest of the all-star cast. The group fit their auto personas quite well, but Larry and Shalhoub are especially great, just so long as they remain in smaller doses. And last but certainly not least, Cars features the late great Paul Newman in his final major film role, as a crotchety old 1951 Hudson Hornet, who serves as a sort of father figure to the small town. After a decades-long career as handsome actor and salad-dressing pitchman, it's honestly a bit depressing to learn that some weird talking car was the last character he ever played.
I'll put it simple. If you're going hard enough left, you'll find yourself turning right.
Oh, right. That makes perfect sense. Turn right to go left. Yes! Thank you! Or should I say no thank you? Because in opposite world, maybe that really means thank you. Crazy grandpa car. What an idiot.
Personally, NASCAR has never been my thing, but for those who are a fan of America's second most popular sport, there's plenty of great references and imagery scattered throughout, including a few great celebrity cameos like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mario Andretti, and Michael Schumacher. Even car enthusiast Jay Leno voices an automobile version of himself. The most appropriate description of the humor found in Cars is subtle bemusement. Seeing cars perform human tasks is a novel curiosity for maybe the first 10 minutes, but there's rarely a gag worth laughing at. With the notable exception of John Ratzenberger's fourth wall-breaking observation during the credits that he voices a character in every Pixar film. But that's about it. The film doesn't have any unique twist or inventive worldview like Pixar's other movies. We're not seeing the world through the eyes of an automobile, we're just seeing our world filled with automobiles. Remarking on Route 66 pre-interstate heyday, Hunt shares, "Cars didn't drive on it to make great time, they drove on it to have a great time." This single line of dialogue might be the film's most effective moment, a poignant reflection on this country's loss of community when small towns were bypassed by bigger and more efficient roadways. Although Pixar had the notable advantage of rendering characters without faces, the animation here still looks beautiful, especially during the races or a stunning nighttime sequence lit by neon signs. Music by Randy Newman, including an Oscar-nominated original, create a laid-back and nostalgic atmosphere that unfortunately is lost on the film's younger demo. I hesitate to call it disappointing, as Cars is still a pretty good movie, it just isn't a good Pixar movie. Now let's see what you had to say in the YouTube comments. Certainly not a fan favorite, you were critical of this film's many flaws, scoring it a 6 out of 10. And I agree. Like I said, it's a good film. Next up, Ratatouille. An unlikely hero makes for a delightful experience. This computer-animated family comedy from the magicians at Pixar was released worldwide in June of 2007, where it earned nearly $500 million more than its $150 million budget. The G-rated story follows a plucky rat who makes an unusual alliance with a young kitchen worker at a famous restaurant in an effort to pursue his unorthodox goal of becoming a master chef. The talented Brad Bird directs the 111-minute feature with delicate precision, letting his wide-eyed character's enthusiasm carry the slower-paced narrative. Comedian Patton Oswalt is brilliantly cast as the resourceful little rodent who chases his ambitious dreams with steadfast resolve. Oswalt brings an infectious charisma and hopefulness to a critter we usually associate with disease and pests. Lou Romano, Janine Garofalo, Ian Holm, Brian Dennehy, Brad Garrett, and of course John Ratzenberger round out the supporting cast with excellent performances and over-the-top French accents. Of particular mention though is Peter O'Toole as a staunch food critic who gives a truthful and honest monologue about what it means to be a critic, perfectly encapsulating the film's moral lesson by stating, "Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere." Nominated for 5 awards, including Michael Giacchino's jazzy score, this film deservedly won the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. Once again, Pixar astounds with its realistic yet playful animation, rendering the furry protagonist with energy and patience. Watching him scamper through the human-sized surroundings has a lyrical beauty to it, especially in an extended tracking shot that ends with a stunning reveal of the beautiful Parisian skyline. Cutting between Oswalt's perspective inside Romano's chef hat to wider shots of the cooks themselves, the lighting, color, and shadows all look fantastic, even if the majority of the film does take place inside this busy kitchen. Besides this mild sense of claustrophobia, the unlikely accomplices at the center of our story share a less than convincing bond. Neither one can prepare food without the other, but it doesn't feel like there's any real relationship or trust between them. Whether you're a foodie, a kid at heart, or just longing for a visit to Paris, this film delivers enjoyment to older audiences, able to appreciate the subtlety and nuance of its subject matter. Without much comedy though, kids will likely check out before the check arrives. Ratatouille is a wonderful story about determination that's exquisitely prepared. And here's what you had to say about it. Surprisingly divisive opinions on this one. Some felt it was slow and predictable, while others felt it was amazingly crafted. Your scores averaged to a 7. I think Ratatouille is great, myself. Our fourth review tonight is for The Good Dinosaur. Not every feature can be a hit. In 2015, for the first time in their company's history, Pixar released 2 films within the same year, Inside Out in June, and this comedy adventure on November 25th. And unfortunately, the double release strategy didn't work out, as this $200 million production only earned $332 million, making it the animation studio's lowest grossing film. The original concept, devised by Bob Peterson, sets the story on a fictional Earth in which dinosaurs never became extinct. The PG-rated plot by director Peter Sau follows an Apatowsaurus who becomes friends with a Cro-Magnon human child. Despite the unique container, this is still a fairly conventional pet-owner relationship we've seen many times before. The young Raymond Ocha portrays the clumsy title character who has reservations about killing the small human pest that later becomes his friend. His mix of trepidation and bravery make for a worthwhile protagonist though. Jack Bright speaks mostly in grunts as the small human boy, Sam Elliott as a T-Rex ranch owner, Anna Paquin as a Tyrannosaurus daughter, and Steve Zahn as a goofy pterodactyl. Ocha is eager to help Zahn save a small critter trapped under a fallen tree, but is absolutely horrified when the flying dino immediately devours it.
I found someone! Over here!
You know, we could use your help, friend.
Whoa! Yeah! That's great!
It's a critter.
A freed critter, thanks to you.
The film's strongest moments are during the first act, as we're introduced to Ocha's family, in particular his father, played by Jeffrey Wright. While teaching his son that fireflies are completely harmless, he advises, "Sometimes you gotta get through your fear to see the beauty on the other side." It's a meaningful life lesson punctuated by a beautiful sequence where they scamper through a field with hundreds of green fireflies swirling around them. Pixar's first non-sequel not to be nominated for any Academy Awards, The Good Dinosaur just doesn't deliver anything new or interesting. The animation, however, is phenomenally well realized. The scenery in particular is filled with gorgeous shots of the American West landscape. Even with its short 93-minute runtime, this film still develops rather slowly as it attempts to illustrate why you should never judge a book by its cover. There's no major missteps here, but there's also no real emotional connection to any of the characters or events either. The Good Dinosaur is a perfectly inoffensive experience without much staying power. Now let's hear some of your thoughts. A bit of a swing and a miss for Pixar. The movie night audience gave this a 6. Neither good nor bad. Personally, I felt this picture was just alright. Last but not least, my review of Finding Dory. 13 years may have passed since the first installment, but this follow-up taps into the same emotional well that made 2003's Finding Nemo a timeless, family-friendly classic. The $200 million aquatic-based comedy by co-directors Andrew Stanton and Angus MacLane was released nationwide on June 17, 2016, and broke opening records for an animated film. Set a year after Part 1, the PG-rated story shifts the focus to the forgetful sidekick. Propelled by a sudden flashback of her loving family, amnesiac Dory, along with her fishy friends, travel to Morro Bay, California to track down her long-lost parents inside a fictional marine institute. As the spunky regal blue tang with short-term memory loss, comedian Ellen DeGeneres returns from talk show retirement to deliver the performance of her career. Lost without her family or memories, there are moments of true heartbreak here, yet she retains a joyful, sympathetic hopefulness that makes it impossible not to root for her journey every step of the way. The versatile Albert Brooks is back as well, alongside Hayden Rollins, replacing Alexander Gould, who had aged out of the role between installments. Gould, however, appears in a small cameo as one of the human characters, which I thought was a nice touch. While many minor characters make return appearances as well, including several in a bonus post-credits scene, it's the addition of new creatures that really add life to this franchise. Diane Keaton and Eugene Levy are wonderful portraying Dory's nurturing and cautious parents during the film's adorable flashback sequences, while Caitlin Olsen is a nearsighted shark and Idris Elba a territorial sea lion. Modern Family castmates Ed O'Neill and Ty Burrell do the best work, however, the former as a grumpy and reluctant septopus, and the latter as an easily excited beluga whale.
I know where my parents are. They're in, what's it called? The place, Soap and Lotion?
Open Ocean.
Open Ocean!
Open Ocean? I know where that is. That's the exhibit located right next to... I don't care.
Easy.
If you're trying to get to the Open Ocean exhibit, just go through the pipes.
Through the pipes, great.
Through the pipes?
Yep, take 2 lefts, swim straight, and you'll hit it.
Oh, that's a lot of directions. Did you get that, Hank? All that?
Yeah.
Great, let's go.
I'm not going with you. I won't fit. You have to go by yourself.
When two of our heroes suddenly find themselves trapped in a kid-friendly touch zone pool, the resulting warlike chaos is hilarious. Seen from the fish's perspective, the grubby hands from each child come smashing into the water like violent drone strikes. The recurring use of Sigourney Weaver, playing herself as the disembodied narrator heard over the park's loudspeakers, delivers some great laughs as well. Although the 103-minute journey seems to tread water for its middle hour, there's plenty of exciting action sequences scattered throughout, including a particularly unbelievable climax that requires a heavy suspension of disbelief. As expected, the animation from Pixar is inventive and photorealistic. The way the light shines through the water and bounces off the seashells is nothing short of beautiful. But the detail that went into creating the aquarium environment shouldn't be overlooked either. If I didn't just visit the Pacific Coast a few months ago, I'd have thought this was a real place. DeGeneres remarks early on during their quest that this feels familiar, which is perhaps the highest compliment I can pay to this picture. A rare sequel that simultaneously captures the spirit of the original while maintaining its own originality. Finding Dory is a worthy successor and a sweet adventure with hilarious characters. A must-see for all Pixar fans, especially those of the first film. I thought it was great. Unfortunately, that does it for tonight's episode, but later this week we'll take an overdue look at the Western genre, so leave your reviews below if you'd like to be involved. In the meantime, you can click this information icon to watch some related reviews. Once again, my name is Jonathan Paula, thanks for watching, and have a good movie night.